Hello, humans! It's Rob here with Not a Robot Podcast, DC Comics Review Show number 117, the world's greatest comic show about the world's greatest superheroes. And I pose to you this question, dear listener: Link of Hyrule, hero of time or terrorist of time? Think about that. We'll get more to that later on. And with me, as always, is Josh. Josh?
Oh,
Josh, you
whoops.
there?
I'm here. My mic was muted. Hey, everybody.
Uh-oh.
How's it going?
And joining us this week is special guest host Nathan.
Hello, I'm back. It's been a little while, but I'm here, and I'm excited to talk about this week's comics.
Definitely
Oh, yeah.
welcome back. Yeah. Brandon's off this week being a student of all things knowledgeable. I don't know what his major is, but I imagine all things knowledgeable takes up a lot of free time. I can't even imagine the workload for something like that. So, yeah, he'll come back a little smarter, I hope. So if you ever want to get in touch with us, you can send us an email to comics@notarobotpodcast.com, and you can get us on Twitter too at notarobotcomics. And if you feel like supporting us, you can. We are on buymeacoffee.com/NER podcasts, and we have our own Discord server, and you can get in touch with us on there by getting on our Buy Me a Coffee website. And we are always online talking about something. Every day there's something new. It's a lot of fun. We were talking about poutine today.
Yum.
Oh God, yeah.
Yum.
There's always something. It's a lot of fun.
I need
Join
a
us.
poutine.
Definitely. I think everybody needs a poutine. Poutine is like the ultimate, like, let's stop fighting and just eat
Yep, just eat
kind of
poutine.
food. That's it. It's just, oh, this
That's what
looks
you
so
need.
good. I'm not even mad
Everybody,
anymore.
everybody needs to move to Toronto and order Uber Eats and get a family-sized poutine and a bag of weed, because Uber
Yeah.
Eats delivers weed in Toronto now.
Toronto's
Yeah.
too cold. I'm sorry. I
Oh,
need
I'm
my
Hey,
with you,
warm
it's-
weather.
actually.
Depends on, actually, yeah, I was gonna say depend, but I'm further, a little further north. But when you're in Toronto, the lake is there, so yeah, it kind of gets a good breeze in between the skyscrapers. So I don't blame you there. I really don't blame you. If you come over my side, just a little north of Toronto, it's a lot warmer. I had to wear shorts today.
See, I'm over in Atlanta, so shorts
Oh,
weather
yeah?
is still like fairly normal here. It got kind of
Yeah.
cold though. It got to like 50 recently for like 2 days, and then got jumped back up to 70, 80. So it's been pretty
Oh
nice.
yeah, I'm just about 2 hours away from you, Nathan, and getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get the kids off to school. Holy cow, is it cold outside?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's that time of year. It's if you're up at before the sun, like it's super cold then, but then super warm in the afternoon. You never know what to wear.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
bring a jacket so you can take it off later. That's all.
That's exactly it. And then people look at you weird when you're wearing a winter coat and shorts. That's where I live. Deal with it. People do that a lot around here.
I never understood that when I lived in Michigan.
Yeah,
I
I
think
actually
sometimes
there's some
just wanna wear
people.
shorts.
Yeah,
I mean that's got to be it. That's the only explanation.
there's some people live around here that in the dead of winter they'll shovel their driveways wearing sandals.
Okay, that's
Barefoot.
just masochistic. Like we all know that.
That's what I'm saying. Forget that.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
Uh-uh.
Okay,
Wearing a metal mask to avoid frostbite. You just don't want to do
yeah.
that.
So before we get into major media news, we'll just do a run through of the books. Today we're looking at Dark Crisis, Young Justice number 5, Catwoman number 48, The Flash number 787, Nightwing number 97, World's Finest number 8, I Am Batman number 14, GCPD The Blue Wall number 1, and Flashpoint Beyond number 6, as well as a few honorable mentions. So before we get into our reviews, let's get into some news. I just got a few things here. In comics world that I've got, honestly, only one of these things is DC. James Tynion the Fourth has announced a new horror book, which I think is his first horror follow up after Nice House on the Lake, called World Tree. It's going to be hosted at Image, and I do not have any other information because I'm a professional.
I mean, the bigger
I,
James Tynion news is that he's working on a movie now. He's making an indie movie called Room Service,
Oh,
and that's
oh, I
the
did not
huge
hear about
news
this.
because it's gotten fully funded now. So that's
oh
going to be in the
wow,
works.
I did
Damn.
not realize that. That is
Yeah, I hadn't
cool
heard that at all.
news.
That's really good.
Be interesting to see what he can do with that.
Yeah, I assume he's writing it.
Yeah. He is.
Yeah,
It's going to be like a small indie movie, but I think he's
right
still
on.
going to be really excited for it. And horror movies are one of those things where you don't really need a massive budget to be successful if you can
Oh no,
find the right angle. And James Tynion's obviously
exactly,
very, very skilled at horror. So if anyone's going to find a lot of success, I mean, it's him, right?
exactly. Yeah, that's something to look forward to for sure.
I mean, if it
Um,
follows Nice House on the Lake the way that he told that story, then
yeah.
oh yeah, I'm all about it, man.
So that flows nicely into movie news, which is my other 2 points. Geiger from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank is being turned into a TV series. I did not see what is being hosted on, but it is being developed as a TV show. So that's exciting. I have not read Geiger yet, but I've heard it's pretty awesome stuff.
It is. It's a
So,
hell of a
yeah,
book. It's a hell of a book.
I got to get into that. I have the first volume of the paper, the trade here. I just haven't had a chance to get into it yet. But it looks really
You'll
good.
enjoy it.
Yeah. And the last bit of news I have, this is the news that I warned Josh might break his heart.
Oh
DC has
no!
canceled yet another movie. Well, I say DC, Warner Brothers has canceled yet another movie in
What
DC's catalog.
movie?
Zatanna is no longer
Oh
going
come
forward.
Isn't
on,
that another one of
man!
those
Yeah.
Abrams movies where they gave Abrams like $300 million to do a dark Justice League or whatever,
Justice League
and
Dark.
then
Yep.
Justice League Dark. I'm dumb. And then like we never saw any of that. Like 4 years later, and he still claimed he
Yeah.
was working on them. I don't
Yeah,
know.
the
I don't know if
Constantine.
Zatanna was tied to that, but it is, yeah, like he's still got that
Yeah,
deal apparently.
there was
Yeah.
supposed to be the Constantine movie, a Zatanna movie, the Madame Xanadu television show, and then it was all supposed to pull together.
Okay, well, I mean, the Constantine
Yeah.
movie's gotten spun off into a new one with the Keanu Reeves, right? So
Yeah.
that one's
They're
still
getting
theoretically in the
sequels to
work.
that.
But speaking of movies, of course, Black Adam reviews are out, and they are awful.
Yes.
Everyone
Oh
is
yeah.
saying it is not good at all, and it is not. It's disappointing because DC's been on a pretty consistent streak lately, and there was a good chance that like Black Adam could be very successful, but it
Yeah.
turns out not so much. So that's fun.
Is that
I'm
critic
gonna
review
reserve
or fan
judgment.
review?
Wait, what did you say?
Nathan?
Yeah,
Is that critic review or fan review?
critic reviews. They've been atrocious.
Critic. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Like that's
I don't know.
that's the
where
thing
fan
I
reviews are.
found with critics, like with critic reviews and fan reviews, that they're like for big movies like this, I find they're often opposites. So
Yeah, I
it
mean,
might be
they
like,
always shit on DC movies, man.
That's
yeah,
not necessarily
like
true.
it's
I mean, they were
Well,
pretty
it's
a
not
lot.
maybe
Wonder
not
Woman.
in every, yeah, it might not be in every situation, but like there's movies that, and I think this could be the case at least with Dwayne Johnson, because he's very much, with every interview he has, he very much seems like he's part of this camp where he's making this movie for the fans of DC and of the character.
Are you
He's
sure
not
about
making
that,
a
though?
movie to please critics. He's not trying to make a AAA
But
blockbuster. He's trying to make a movie about the character.
I guess like here's my thing about like Black Adam, right? Is Dwayne the Rock Johnson talking
Yeah.
about how he's wanting to do this for forever and forever, and every time he talks
Yeah,
about it, it's
he was
clear he's
cast
so
in like
excited for
2009.
this, right? But like,
Mhm.
he's clearly so excited. But every time he talks about what the movie's about, it's almost as if there was nothing of substance. Like, it was always really
Because he doesn't want to
strange.
spoil anything. He doesn't want to like spoil a damn thing because
Yeah, but then the
he
reviews
that's
said
what
that
he
there's
knows
not
about the
much of
fans.
substance in the movie itself. So,
Yeah, that's
I mean, yeah.
I've
Again,
seen a
according to the
leak
critics,
plot leak, and it definitely the plot leak I read, whether it's true or not, did not have much to it. But like Josh said, I'm also gonna like reserve judgment for when I
yeah.
see it Saturday night.
Well, speaking
yeah.
of other bad DC reviews, Gotham Knights
Oh,
reviews
hold on.
came out. Oh,
Before we move on from Black Adam, I just want to say I saw the mid credit scene. Holy shit! You saw it coming from a mile away, but it was still cool to see. That's
Yeah,
all I'm gonna say, and I'm glad to see that at least out of the Black Adam movie.
that part is something to be excited about. We will not spoil it, of course.
All right, sorry,
The
Nathan.
movie just
Go
came
ahead.
out last night.
and then Gotham Knights, the video game reviews are out, and they are also awful. IGN gave it a 5.
Awful,
And
Nathan.
typically
My heart
IGN's...
is broken about
Yeah,
this.
I was so
It
sad.
is broken.
On the bright side, my wallet had just got $80 back, so, you know, I
Yep.
can't complain with that.
There you go.
Just we'll save it for now. Put it to the side for Justice League versus the Suicide Squad. Hopefully that will be better.
We'll see.
If it
I'm
ever comes
honestly,
out, fingers crossed.
yeah, I'm honestly though getting confused at this point about which studio is doing what. I know the Suicide Squad versus Justice League team was tied to the Arkham games, but I don't remember if it was the main series or
Yeah,
Arkham
so
Origins.
Rocksteady did the main series. Gotham Knights is
Yeah.
the one who did the shorter like spin-off one that wasn't like
Okay,
part
they
of the main
did
trilogy.
Arkham Origins. Okay, good.
Yes,
That
right.
makes more
And
sense
then
now.
and then there's also
So,
the Wonder Woman project in work, and that's being done by the team who did
yes.
the Shadow of Mordor series, and
Mhm.
the is famous for their
Okay.
Nemesis engine. So that I feel have some faith in. But we'll see
Yeah,
about
those are
Justice
pretty
League
good
versus
games.
Suicide Squad. Rocksteady's a very talented developer, but the
Yeah.
premise of this being like a multiplayer shooter is continues to throw me off. Like why this was the choice, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I
We'll
you
see.
don't want to be a one-trick pony, I guess, when your three biggest games were sequels of each other and they were just single-player adventures. And again, if you want to branch out to something a little different,
No, I
um,
get a studio wanting to branch out, right? But you have to
yeah,
make what you're good at, right? Or something that's
yeah,
within your skill set. Because if you go too ambitious and you don't have that level of talent, you make a Gotham Knights where everyone says it's not a great game. It's not super fun. The combat's repetitive. There's some good
yeah,
moments, but it doesn't. But like so many like moments of unfun gameplay that it's not worth it. And
mhm,
if you go too ambitious and you're not ready for it as a studio, like you are going to fall apart. And right, it's not
yeah,
that studios can't genre
Yep.
change. I mean, Guerrilla Games did a great job with like Horizon after moving from a shooter to Horizon. But like generally speaking, it's just disappointing that like Warner Brothers is just giving these studios free reign. Remember, it's been 8 years since we last got a game from the studio, and they gave
Yeah,
us
yeah,
a
Gotham Knights after
long
8 years
time.
of development. Like, it's just frustrating, and I think fans are
mhm,
disappointed because I was excited for it. I
Me
had
too.
prepared to be spending all day playing it, and then the reviews came out, and I was like, never mind.
yeah.
I had who I made my wife promise that she would sit down and play the game with me, and now I'm like, I'm not
Oh,
even buying it.
damn,
Yeah.
Yeah, she was all for it and everything, and now it's all gone.
damn.
Right?
That's a shame.
Indeed.
And Josh and I were talking just before you came, Nathan, about this, and I was saying the gameplay that's come out recently and some of the reviews reminds me a lot of the Avengers game, which also was
But,
not
like, the
great.
reviews are worse.
Yeah,
The reviews
which
are
I did not think
worse.
was possible. I actually had a really bad time playing Avengers. I enjoyed the story, but the gameplay was so freaking horrible.
I think I
So
put in, like, 40
I'm
hours into
surprised
it.
that this is worse. I might have as well because I finished the campaign and then I played a bit of the post game
I
content.
played until I got to my first like 150 power level character, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. There's not much else here.
No,
I'm good. Moving
I don't
on.
even remember where
And
it
then
was. I know I
I've
maxed
come
out Miss
back.
Marvel.
Yeah, I came back for each of the DLCs, and then Wakanda DLC, and after I played through the story of the Wakanda DLC, it was like, yeah, this game just doesn't feel much better. I'm moving on. I haven't touched it since. So,
Yeah, it's been 2 years
unfortunately.
since that released. I think
Yeah,
maybe more.
but I'm just like, how did you not learn from Avengers? Like,
You know?
how you managed to make a game that's reviewed worse than Avengers when you had 2 years to take lessons, and make changes.
I mean, look at the Arkham series, look at the Spider-Man games, and take a couple fucking notes. I mean, that's how you
Yeah.
make a superhero game.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I
that's
mean, they're trying
also
to
the
take
thing.
they're trying to combine like Spider-Man gameplay with like Avengers, but the problem is,
Yeah.
Avengers is so bad that like to try to emulate it in any capacity is just gonna
Yeah.
fall apart.
Exactly.
Like,
And
you know what's
that's
going to
also
fix this
the
headache?
difference.
That brick wall.
Yeah.
That's the difference, though, between a single player AAA adventure, which you get from Spider-Man in the Arkham series, versus the games as a service model that we discussed on the Discord yesterday with Kirk. That just everybody's doing it, but it doesn't work. Which
Well,
is
it
what we
doesn't work
got
for
from
certain
Avengers
types
and what
of
we're getting from
games,
Gotham Knights.
right?
Yeah, like there's sorry, I will put an asterisk there. Like there's some games that are super successful, like Fortnite and Rocket League, like that. But those are also free titles where you're paying full price and then you get mediocre gameplay and DLC that's boring as shit. No, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the collector's edition for and Nathan, you said you got $80 back, so I'm assuming that you got that.
I was gonna buy the deluxe edition with the Night Watch suits.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, you get the Night Watch suits and a Bat Cycle skin, and I believe that's it. And I
There's
just
one or
you
two
know
more things, but I was like, I'll
It
do
just-
it. The suits
I
are
was-
cool. I'm excited for this game. It's one of the more exciting games for me. I'm gonna be playing this year. And then I saw the reviews, and I was like, never mind.
Yep, same thing, man. Same damn thing.
When it's $30 and it's on like deep sale, which I assume it will be at some point, like I'll play it then. Because I still want to
Yeah.
give it a go. I'm not in a hurry
Potentially.
to pay $80, $60 to $80 for it anymore.
No, you're right though. I'd pay $30 just to go through the campaign and hear the story.
Exactly, right.
I'll wait till it comes.
Although I've heard
to
the
Game
story's
Pass.
not great, so oh well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh crap. Well then, fuck it. I'm just gonna wait till it's on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of surprised at the lack of story. Yeah, what can you do?
Well,
Especially
my
when
understanding
they
is it's
were
very,
promising
like-
so many cool villains.
What
My
can you do? You
understanding
can
is the
start a
problem is
podcast
the-
and bitch about it.
Yeah. My understanding is the problem is the villains are very like their own little side stories, and then like the
Yeah.
main story, which is the Court of the Owls. Basically, the way that seems the game works is you have to like do a bunch of random exploration to unlock a new side quest, to unlock a new quest, and then you have to do more, and then you do that quest, and then you have to do more exploration to unlock the next quest, and that cycle doesn't seem to be very rewarding, and it actually feels almost
Yeah.
like there's filler, lots and lots and lots of filler content, and it's just disappointing.
Yeah, that doesn't sound great.
No. Not a fan.
But anyway, we got a bunch of incredible comics to talk about, so let's not.
We do
Yeah.
have a bunch of comics to
too
talk about, don't we?
Deep in the darkness.
Yeah.
We're gonna start off a little dark.
Yeah, but before we get into that, do we want to talk about the solicits that dropped today, or the
Yeah.
lack thereof?
I mean, the solicits came out, and they included things that would have already been announced, and then they
Yeah.
include a bunch of filler one-off stories.
Yep.
For the second semester, for the second month in a row, and I do not know what's going on. I remember in the lead up to Infinite Frontier, before they announced Future State, I was like, watch out for January. Everything's going to be in January. It's going to be huge. Because you looked at like the November and then December solicits, and you're like, oh, something's big is about to come up. And then we got to January, and it was Future State, and it was like, okay, but the big thing's coming up in just a little bit. And then it was then Infinite Frontier got announced, and I was like super excited about it. And then this almost doesn't feel like that. It feels almost like every single comic, but like a couple are holding off on
Yeah.
big announcements, and I'm just confused
Yeah.
because there's a minor problem of the new post-crisis continuity begins in January, and people are going to be excited for it. And I just don't see any of the content. And maybe they're trying to hold off till March so that they can release the big comic and then announce everything. But I don't know. I'm nervous. It's just
It
strange.
seems a
There's not
long
much.
stretch.
Yeah, right.
So I know I
I mean, to
mentioned I
be
have a
fair.
theory. I just came up with a second one.
Oh yeah. So what's your theory?
This one's even better. So my first theory is actually based on off a comment I read on Reddit, um, that they're purposely holding off on big announcements for major stuff until they get closer to the end of Dark Crisis, so they don't
Yeah.
spoil even more of the story than they already have. And then that also follows to your point that they'll maybe do it in March, because we already have in January we have Lazarus Planet taking over, and then we have Nightwing numbered 100 as the big books, and I can't remember when's Action 1050. Is that December?
That's December. It's the first
December.
post-crisis
Okay.
comic. Yeah.
Right. So then, yeah, we got the new format with Action in January as well. So there's
Yeah.
definitely some big stuff happening, but it's stuff we already knew about. So that's why it might have felt a little underwhelming. And then they're holding off until Dark Crisis calms down a bit and they don't spoil stuff. That's fine. My alternate theory is that it's typical par for the course for Joshua Williamson to just have like no proper ending, and then it just ends and everything goes back to normal. but but that's just the cynical me talking. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna put weight on that one. But the
Yeah.
first, I think the former theory might have some weight to it.
Yeah, I mean, so the big things, right, in terms of what's coming, they're doing like they've been doing with DC Pride, they're doing a Black History Month special, DC Power, a celebration, coming out on the 21st of January. That's super exciting, which
Right on.
features a bunch of big black heroes. I think that'll be awesome. There's, of course, the Flash Minute War, which will be a Flash event that will just take place in the Flash with the Flash family, where an entire war will happen over the course of 1 minute. There's, of course, Lazarus Planet, which will be a weekly 2 month series. And that's been said to spin off into a bunch of different things. So I assume that's part of why we feel like they're holding off on stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and then that's pretty much it, other than like some of the like next issues of books like Wildcats or the Golden Age content. Um,
Brandon predicted the 1 minute war.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
he was joking about it. He wasn't serious about it, and it turned out to be true. So,
It's crazy.
it's a cool premise, though. I'm
Yeah.
excited for it.
Yeah, it's pretty
But
cool.
we'll see.
There was a preview image I saw on one of the news sites today, which had uh, Bart, Ace, Wally, and Barry racing together, which looked really cool.
Hmm.
And who
But you know
knows
what
what other
Lazarus Planet
speedsters might
reminds
show
me a
up.
bit of? It reminds me of that like Internal Winter series, where it was like a
Yeah,
fun like weekly sort of like mini a set of like mini stories to like to be like a holding set of books where
Like
like
Endless
they were
Winter?
just waiting for that to finish, but it wasn't like super
yeah,
important, but it was just like the
it
main
was
like
there.
story. But it was actually pretty good, so
Yeah,
fingers crossed for this.
yeah. I didn't hate Endless Winter. I thought it would like to call it an event felt kind of dull. It
Yeah.
really felt more just like a crossover big story. But I think they were
Yeah.
pushing it as an event, and it felt kind of maybe it's just the marketing kind of blew it for me. But I didn't really hate the story. No, it was a nice little Justice League romp.
Yeah, I actually think it's the best Justice League story they've released in like 8 years. That's really not a high bar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of all the other Justice League stories. You're not wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't do that to yourself.
I didn't mind the early Scott Snyder stuff before he got too into the totality and what's her name, the creator
Yeah.
Perpetua, like some of the
Perpetual.
early stuff with the Legion of Doom I thought was really interesting. A lot of fun stuff with the when they incorporated the still force and
You mean you
the
didn't
the
like
invisible
Apex
Spectrum.
Predator
I thought that was
Lex?
cool. I actually thought he was pretty cool.
Yeah, that wasn't my complaint with the series.
Yeah,
My
having a
complaint
history with Martian Manhunter, I thought that was interesting.
My complaint is that Year of the Villain was maybe the worst event DC has ever done. So,
Yes,
that's
100%.
the bigger problem.
I don't know about the worst they've ever done, but it was definitely up there.
Now,
It's in the
which
conversation partly because it like actively ruins the DCU on its way to like
Yeah.
prevent it. Like it's not a bad like the main story is not terrible, but it like does so much damage to everything else that it like sent the universe into like a multi-month like weird continuity
lol?
disaster.
Fucking
Which
dust
villain thing? Because
tornado.
they did like 3 villain things in a row. Is Year the Villain the one where they had Forever Evil? Was that
No.
event?
No.
No. Which one was Year of the Villain? Because I get them
So
confused.
it was DC Summer of Events, and
Yeah.
then that was when the Justice No Justice happened.
Oh,
And
right,
then a
right,
year
right, right.
later, Snyder, for the 25th through the 32nd issue of his run, did Year of the Villain, and his arc was Justice Do More. And the way it worked is every single comic had to basically put like 2 pages at the end to show like Lex Luthor giving them all a power. But like then
Right.
comics
That's right.
afterwards were like, oh yeah, we take place before this, and then some were like, and like it was like, how does this event happen? But then like other stuff happens in the meantime, and there was the infamous Bendis tie-in that was like a tie-in to 3 different events at once. It was like Year of the Villain crossed with Event Leviathan, and I forget what the other event was, but it was like a triple tie-in, and I was like, what is happening? This is the biggest mess.
I think if that's the Action Comic story you're talking about, it was dealing. I think it also kind of tied into Young Justice because Connor came back,
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
and then it was also dealing with its own story with the Red Mist, and it was just too
Uh-huh.
much.
As a triple
I
tie-in.
could not
It's
stand those
disaster.
issues. Oh my god, it was like what, a 2 or 3 part story, and it was just way too much content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Talk about just disastrous events. That is up there
yeah.
for sure.
I mean, to be fair, more than half of the stories he's referencing were his own stories, and
Yes,
for
that is
like
very true.
completely out of Bendis fashion, he incorporated someone else's story for once. But
You know
that's
what I will say is a huge joy of looking through these solicits, though? You know how many times I saw the word Brian Michael Bendis?
How
0.
many?
0.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yay!
And it's sad that that's exciting, but it
Yeah.
is. So,
It is so
Yeah.
exciting.
mhm.
Oh,
It is
man.
sad to say though. It is another month we do not have an Aquaman, a Green Arrow, a Green Lantern, or a Suicide Squad title.
Well, technically speaking, if I can jump into my honorable mentions real quick, we did have an Aquaman title, Andromeda 3. That was kick ass. So were the rest of the books. DC War of the Undead Gods 3, DC versus Vampires All Out War, Rogues 4, the 5th issue of Black Adam, Batman the Knight was good, Fables was good, Duo was awesome. Titans United Blood Pact is Titans United Blood Pact. I mean, I guess if you're into it, yay. It's not wowing me over. And Batman One Bad Day Penguin. Also not a bad book. And I was not expecting to be okay with that.
Right on.
But yeah, so we did have an Aquaman book technically.
That's true. I completely
Long
forgot because I've
awaited.
not had a chance to read that one yet. That and Rogues are the last 2 on my list for this week. I've not had a chance yet. I'm excited for Rogues. That one looks. I've enjoyed the first 3 issues. That's been a blast.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
good.
I haven't read most of those.
Surprised.
I haven't read most of those. I don't tend to read the out of continuity stuff. But Black Adam was a mess. I like Christopher Priest's work, but like I think sometimes you just need someone to tell a writer, "Hey, just clean up your plot a little bit. Just make it like 20% more clear." And your story will be like 4 times better. Because it's not that there's not like good stuff in there, but it's so all over the map that it's like hard to follow what's actually going on.
Yeah,
and it's just a little frustrating.
I really
will
like it,
give
but I
you
get what
that.
you're getting at. Yeah,
I
it is.
totally
It
Just
is a
like
little
clean it
messy.
up like 10 to 20% more. It's why one of my favorite
Yeah.
Morrison books is his Batman run. and as well as his recent Superman and the Authorities, because he just cleaned up his weirdness just a little bit, and it made like the story a lot better. It's why Doom
That's
Patrol, the
like,
TV show, is so good. It cleans up the weirdness just enough for it to like be fun.
that's
You
the
heard
thing
it
with
here
Grant
first,
Morrison.
folks. Nathan is saying, curb your enthusiasm.
Not curb your enthusiasm, but clean up the weirdness of the plot just enough that like
Yeah.
anyone can read it and be able to recite what the plot was to you. If you can't recite the plot back after you read the story, there's a problem. And I can't tell
Sometimes
you what the
those are
plot
the
of Black
most
Adam was.
fun. Sometimes those are the most fun Grant Morrison stories. So if you read his 18 issue run on Action Comics or New 52 and you tell me you understood it, I would call you a liar. But also tell me it was bad and I'd call you a liar. It's such a
Fine.
trip.
Sixth
and it's
Dimension
fun.
is weird. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Kind of had that same discussion with Holly just today. How it took her 4 times watching Dinner with the Schmucks before she could really enjoy the movie. The first 3 times she saw it, she did not enjoy it at all.
That's just too many
Why?
times.
Why?
That's
Why
what
would
I'm
you-
saying.
If you didn't like it
That's
the
what I'm
first time,
saying.
why would you go back a second?
Yeah, exactly. If I gotta watch it more than once to understand what the fuck happened, I did not sign up for a history course.
No. I'm also curious what happened on the 4th viewing that kind of clicked.
I don't know.
What was
I think
different
at some
about
point,
it?
it's like that social cue where somebody's explaining something and you just tuned them completely out and you just kind of go, "Oh, yeah." I think
Fair enough. I've been there, yeah, I get that.
I mean, sometimes I do think when you watch something enough times, like you get a better sense of like who's who and the plot and all of that things, and like more beats click in your mind. Because I will tell you, like sometimes when I review a comic, I have this impression of it when I read it the first time, where I'm like, this was very busy, it was tough to understand, and then when you go back in with a more fine-tooth comb, sometimes the stories are a lot more clear when you like write out like who's who and all of that stuff. But I do
That
feel like
does-
sometimes it's like that's more work than it should be, so.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what do you guys think? Should we get into the spotlight?
I
Yeah.
think we should. Yeah, so the first one, just to preface this, we are switching it up a little bit today. Normally, I Am Batman, which is our first book in our Spotlight section, is usually covered under our regular in-depth section. But because that one leads into the only other book we had in Spotlight, GCPD The Blue Wall, we've opted to put that one first and then have the Blue Wall right next to it. So we'll pass it on over to Josh to tell us about where Jace is right now.
I am Batman 14, and he's out getting pizza. Written by John Ridley with Christian Deuce and Tom Derenick on art, Rex Locus and Romeo Friardo Jr. on colors, Troy Pateri on lettering, and the cover came from Deuce and Locus. The issue starts out with a brief catch-up of one of the plots in this title, Who Killed Anarchy? The catch-up, a protester in favor of the magistrate in Gotham was killed. Anarchy was investigating and was killed as well. He got shot by the Moral Authority, a domestic terrorist group, but someone else was the one that killed him, later shooting him at point-blank range. And now Batman says that he knows who did it. The leader of the underground group that Danny Chan, the murdered man, was a member of, except he was also a police informant. So the group took them both out, including Anarchy, for investigating. After whooping some extremist butt, Batman and the Question are talking on the rooftops when Batman asks if he passed her test, and she replied that he wasn't the one being tested, which I believe will be a statement that leads directly into our next book. Next, we get a little bit of Tam in her vigilante costume doing the vigilante do before the cops are alerted to her presence and they rush there after she beats up the guys who tried to make someone rob a liquor store. They ask who she is, and she says, "I am she who puts foot in ass." I am she who delivers beatdowns on punks. Yeah, I am her as hell. So I'm wondering if at this point maybe did she just adopt her moniker? Is she gonna start calling herself her? But
Honestly,
anyway,
I
I
think
think
she'll go
she.
by Robin, but
you
I think,
think so?
yeah, I think we're working there. I mean, the suit's the right colors. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, like Jace is Batman,
Mhm.
so Jace getting a Robin makes a lot of sense. I don't know if the technical.
Oh, you cut out there,
Oh, but
Nathan.
it
What'd you
feels like a
say? You
possibility. My bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're fine. All right, Rob. What were
Uh,
you saying?
I think Foot and Ass Girl would be an epic name.
Foot and ass girl. Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
just channel your inner Red Foreman.
There you go. That'll do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chubb shows up and stands nearly even with um her, probably Robin, before she makes a quick escape. We're not done with Chubb though, because her and Whitaker are with Batman now, and she's making it clear that he needs to get the masks under control, or she will. She walks away, and Whitaker starts talking mad shit to Batman about running from Gotham and from the dark crisis that's underway. Which I always find it hilarious when characters know the name of the comic book event that we're reading. Anyway, he's like, "Why do you call yourself Batman?" And then he calls him a coward a few times. And I guess that's one of Jace's trigger words. He doesn't take it very well. He whips out his baton and then beats the holy living hell out of Whitaker before Chubb shows up and stops him. She checks on Whitaker and she says that he might not make it. Thing is, Whitaker's facing away from them and he's got glowing yellow eyes. This was a hell of a good issue. The art is always there on point, but this issue pulled me even further into the story. More developments with Renee Montoya and what the hell is going on in New York City. I'm definitely happy with this book. No questions asked. 8.5 out of 10. Tell me what y'all thought.
It's incredible. What I remember 6, 7 months ago, I was saying this might be the best book I think DC's putting out right now. And I do think a book beat it this week that we'll talk about in just a second. But like this book is consistently very good, and it's not just like that. The book like it feels like older Batman. Like it feels like
Yes.
traditional classic Batman Year One. The like stakes are
Street
very
level
low.
Batman.
Like compare this to the Batman series right now, where we're fighting Failsafe. Like these two stories are night and day in difference in both like quality and who's competing, who the enemies are, and what the themes are. And this is just so much more potent. There's a line that this is when like this is the why I love the story so much. Um, Jace asks if they did the right thing, and Montoya responds, "Honestly, the narrative people get sold about heroes is we come in at the last minute and save the day, and maybe that's the truth for Green Superman, Green Lantern. But when you're fighting often alien invasion and universal dictators, good and bad are black and white, easy and obvious. But when you're fighting bias, bigotry, and human nature, there's gray, nothing but gray. And I hate to tell you this, but it only gets grayer." And I think that
Yep.
just says so well, like what makes Batman work, is it's dark, but you're dealing. And I think what John really does, he takes those themes of Batman and he applies them to the black experience and to themes that revolve around the black community in ways that are incredibly potent and powerful. And I think really elevate this book to doing things that make the Batman feel fresh. And so often the way that you make Batman feel fresh is power creep. James Tinian, when he wrote his Dark Designs, talks a lot about how heroes get stronger and stronger alongside their villains. And this is a
Mm-hmm.
hero who's new and whose villains are fairly new, and it feels like a traditional story, like a Batman story. And I think it really, really works. And I just am continually impressed by the series. Honestly, I think John Ridley should just become the new head of the Bat family because I think he gets it and what Batman is on a level that no one else is quite matching right now.
That would be something else. I won't shit on what Zdarsky is doing because I absolutely love what's going on over in that title. But I couldn't agree with you more, man. The very first issue I thought was pretty kick ass. I really liked it. Then the next couple during his transition to New York City, they were a little iffy, but not bad. And everything since then has just been better and better. It's absolutely been a stellar title. I think Rob's on the same page as us, yeah?
Yeah, honestly, I agree with you there that the first story arc was interesting enough to keep me going, but not the greatest. But once he hit New York streets, the tone shift was immense, and it was such a great read after that, and it still is. Uh, it follows through even to
Agreed.
this issue. Since he hit New York, it's been a thrill ride ever since, and this issue it does not slow that down. For everything you guys have already said, I don't think there's much more I can say. It's just really good. Tam starting out, which has been kind of hinted at over the past few months as a hero, has been really good so far. The only thing that beats it is Jace's reaction to that photo, which that threw me. That had to make me stop and laugh. That was good.
Right?
Eight point
Ah,
five out of
shit.
10. Yeah,
8.5 out of 10, fair
eight
enough.
point five. Yeah.
It's
All
a
right, then
9
I'm
for me.
right
Sorry,
on. He said it's a 9 for him.
9. Nice one. All right,
I waited
so
a long time for this next one.
yeah, it's been a long time coming, and I imagine it was also a long ride for Renee Montoya back to Gotham into her new book, the GCPD, The Blue Wall, which Nathan is going to tell us all about.
Yeah. So, at a cadet graduation speech, Montoya gives an inspiring speech about the goals of police officers. Afterwards, she suffers from PTSD and sees the Two Face when he's not there, and Montoya later that night doubts herself. Three cadets celebrate their graduation at a diner and agree to be there for each other. One new trainee is on their first mission and told that the suspect is a young black man in a red hoodie. Obviously, very descriptive and definitely tells people how to identify the perpetrator. Seeing someone that fits the hyper vague subscription, they chase him, thinking he might pull a gun. The cop, the new cadet, ends up not shooting, but pulls out the gun, but doesn't end up shooting. The police say this is an incredible act of restraint and parade her around as an example of a good cop because cynics being cynical about cops is something that writers do. And meanwhile, another rookie gets placed in the hardest neighborhood in the city, and other coworkers are racist to him, calling him words like a beanie. Another tries to do
Yep.
good by talking with the people who are on parole, and at the diner, the three cadets end up coming back, and one of them has become a new celebrity, the one who has been paraded around, and she admits that she feels bad about all of this because in actuality she did want to kill the kid, but just couldn't get herself to pull the trigger. Later the next day, there's a robbery, and the cop fails with cameras watching to stop the robbery,
Oops.
and someone dies. Um, I just
Double
have to
oops.
say, I think this is everything you could ask for this kind of book. There's a lot of substance to it, a lot of incredible thematics, and when they announced they were doing a GCPD book, I was very nervous. I was like, I really trust John Ridley, but I just will say that I've seen a lot of cop books, and sort of cop. The terms one cop terms like propaganda, but the bigger thing is it's not super fun to to glorify cops right now, and it's something I'm very hesitant with. Because there's a lot of difficulties and a lot of conversation that is rightfully happening in the current world. And I wanted to see this book reflect some of that. And I was very nervous that with it being called GCPD, it wouldn't. But I was very clearly wrong. I think it does everything right. There's both this hope that exists, but also this cynicism, right? Where things are where people are trying to do their best, but the system that exists often pushes cops in certain paths, and the police department that's run that has a lot of deep roots with it are problematic. But I think it's what makes it so good is that this isn't a night and day. This is good. This is bad. Like, look at these cops shining. It's really just focused on what is like being a
Is
cop in
going
Gotham
on.
like, and
Yep.
seeing these people enter this world not knowing what's about to come their way. And I genuinely think it's one of the best single issues DC has released in the last like couple of years. It's just so good.
Uh, Dude, this book, spinning out of Renee's time in New York City, obviously, we told you that when we started this. It pulls these comics down to the real street level shit, man. Cops aren't superheroes. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody gets scared. A complete lack of faith in non recidivism. With a complete lack of faith of inmates not going back to jail, and it's all things that are real. It's all things, like Nathan said, that don't often make it to the forefront. I mean, like on Law and Order, that shit. That's not how it usually goes, man. But top it all off, Renee's journey towards who knows what, as of now, that is. Hopefully, though, we will be seeing her doing double duty soon. That would be awesome. And the art is pretty damn good, too. This is a pretty freaking good setup issue. This, I wouldn't call it stellar, not yet, but this could be the setup issue for a stellar series for sure. We'll have to wait and see, of course. I am definitely hoping for it. Ridley has really not missed for me yet. So I got some faith in the guy and in the title. This gets an 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, great first issue. The new characters are very well introduced, and there's fantastic art throughout. Renee Montoya has always been a favorite character of mine ever since BTOS with her introduction there, and having her translation into the comics, and now the evolution this character has gone through from beat cop to detective to commissioner, as they stated in this issue. It has been a I don't want to say fast paced, but it's been a bit of a fast track, and I'm happy about that. It's a great transition for the character, and I think a natural progression. And I'm very curious to see how this will translate with her identity as the question going forward. If the question will appear at all in this series, part of me kind of hopes no. I hope this kind of stays as a very procedural cop show kind of deal, which is
Really?
very interesting to read in comic form. Yeah, I think we could do with a DC book that is not superhero centric, but still set in the superhero world, like
I just,
Gotham
I don't,
Central, for example,
I
was
want it.
always a
Okay,
hit.
so I want the question. I want her as the question, but I want her as the question in this exact setting, in this exact world, written the way it is. I think
I'm all for that. Just don't do it in
gritty
this book.
question could be cool.
Yeah,
Oh no.
yeah, definitely
All
have like
right.
a gritty Renee Montoya question title. Maybe even bring Vic Sage and have two questions, because what's better than one question is two questions. You get double the answers. But
Well, did you
leave
know that
leave
there's a
this book
Batman
where it
villain
is.
called The Answer?
Yeah, but it's never the right answer.
No, sometime go look it up. It's absolutely ridiculous. Oops, I forgot to turn my
Wasn't he?
ringtone off.
Didn't he have a rivalry with the Riddler or something? It seems familiar to me. I don't know why.
I don't
I feel like that was something Tom King did. I don't know.
know.
Um,
But for me, I think this is a 10. Like I said, I think it's one of the best books DC's released. I think one of the reasons why it works so well is the writing is so natural. And as you were
Hmm.
saying, Rob, it's very mundane in the sense that it's like very street level. And I think, like I was
yeah.
saying, one of the reasons why I think John Ridley should just take over as Batman is, to me, when I think of like what makes good Batman storytelling, this is it. And I think what this does
Yeah.
better than anything else is it brings in that real world conversation, and it brings
Hmm.
in the real topics we deal with today, and uses superheroes as a platform with which to explore those issues. And I think one of the biggest things that like I constantly see from both Marvel and for a long time I've seen from DC, but I still see it in various degrees, is this effort to not be political, to not lean into modern conversation, to try to write stories that are just like, oh, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy. And I think you really prevent comics from reaching like the next level, because when you think about the comics that go down as these literary masterpieces, they're books that get to things like the human condition, that talk about modern
The
commentate
late
about
80s
modern
and
stuff.
late
And
80s and
this
early
does all of
90s are
that.
chock full of it in the comics.
Yeah.
Even like the 40s, Superman was busting up or busting up sex trafficking rings in like Action Comics #4. Like, this is something that is at the core of what comics are. Is, in a sense, their commentary about where we are through the lens of this super heroic world. And
Absolutely.
it's exciting
Brandon,
to see. Mhm. It's exciting
Brandon and
to
I
see a
were having
writer.
a conversation before about how growing up a little away from most people and not around any comic book fans, pretty sheltered religious upbringing. Um, it was comic books, it was Batman, it was Green Arrow that helped expose me to the real world that was around me, and that prevented me from going from 12-year-old country kid to 13-year-old city kid and not having culture shock at all, because I knew what the real world was out there. A lot of people, I would say, share the same story. Basically, Brandon did as well, and I'm sure many other people out there do too. Comics, I won't get preachy, but that's why I get pissed off at the Comics Gate guys, because it's like they're trying to push this new modern agenda. I'm like, motherfucker, they've been doing this shit forever. Where have you been? It's not about a social agenda. You just want every savior to be a fucking white Jesus. But end of rant. Anyway.
Right, but I think like it's a willingness to engage in the conversation. It's willingness to say, "Hey, I want to do a book about the GCPD because I think there's a lot of interesting storytelling available here. Let's bring in topics like defund the police and how like police might look at it, and both like the negatives and positives of this discussion. And let's bring in some of the systemic issues of police, and let's talk about policing, and let's talk about them, and let's do so in a way that like changes perspectives and like is open and has conversation. I wish DC did more of this kind of thing, because I think even still they're hesitant. Like, for example, I remember the first issue of Superman, Son of Kal-El, was said like, I want to be the Superman that fixes the core problems, not the symptoms. And then we kind of lost all of that as we went on the sort of like tangent that was Gamora, right? Where it wasn't really about the symptoms. But like, I think there's so much potential in just being willing to engage in core problems that are, in a sense, tougher to deal with than any one person in this world can like save. Like, we have like these 60-second wars coming up, right? But like, in a sense, like that to me is less valuable. Then it's fun, but it's less valuable than something as like nuanced and intricate as this. And I just think it's a
I
gold
won't
standard.
argue that with you at all.
Mm-hmm.
And if Ridley is able to dive that head first out that loudly about true social commentary, that will make this book a revolutionary book. Definitely an entertaining book, and potentially one of the best series in the year, because of the way I know that he writes. That's what gives me the confidence to say that. Not necessarily the message. I'm not gonna laud something just because I agree with what they're saying or not, but because of what the topic is, the way that it's so street level, and what he's done with I Am Batman. Reading him write that kind of real life story, I can't help but imagine 12 Years a Slave, and just that gritty honesty, and having it be applied to the Blue Wall, and that potential has me really excited. I don't know if he'll be allowed to dive, to get that deep into it, but I think it would be cool. Yeah.
I will say though, when you open with a warning, a content warning, I generally think it's a sign that there's a strong willingness to deal with the issues. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, definitely a trigger warning. All
One
right.
thing's for sure. I think this book is going to have a bright future ahead of it for sure. It's going to go to some places that most books don't, and it's just going to shine because of that. I
And
look forward to
hopefully
the
have a
rest.
lot of people talking about it.
Yeah. So I give this an 8.75 out of 10. It's damn good.
Indeed, it was.
All right, so that was the GCPD, and that's one set of heroes in Gotham. But now we're going to move on from our spotlight to a new section we're calling Quick Bites, which is going to be a couple of books that we'll talk about in a little bit of a speedier fashion. Not the Flash, I promise, but it is books that the plot is not too heavy that we can cover in just a little bit quicker. And we're going from one Gotham hero to another Gotham hero with a Metropolis hero, and that's in Batman Superman World's Finest #8. And I'll pass it over to Josh.
All right. Well, this one again is written by Mark Waid, Dan Mora on art and cover, Tamara Bonvillain on colors, and the lettering was by Steve Wands. So the key, an old JL villain, we are informed, has made everyone in Gotham afraid of doors and windows via chemical blanket over the city. Superman and his sidekick Boy Thunder, his new one, whose powers are heat based, are called in by Batman and Robin, who are stuck in the Batcave. They fight against it and are able to put a stop to the madness together, but they didn't find the key. At the end, we see that the key is working for, or at the very least with, the Joker. It's a fun read. It's a good story. I'm not sure how I feel about this continuing past the lead in to Batman and Batman versus Robin, but just letting myself look past that, Mora's art is great, of course, and like I said, the story is a fun read. It's a fun story. It's unimportant, I would think, because of the timeline, but again, real fun. 7.5 out of 10.
It's still one of my favorite reads. I'm loving the art, I'm loving the stories. I still think keeping this in the past is a great choice. It mixes well with the rest by not needing to hold itself to any other books in the continuity. So you get a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fun and you're not being dragged down by what everyone else in Batman and Superman is doing right now. So that's I think a good placement. And Boy Thunder has been a ride. I'm hoping he can stay true to being a hero, even though throughout the story they're starting to show some shades of a villain poking through. And I'm hoping that
I'm
they
telling
don't
you,
go in that
he's wearing
direction.
purple and green.
Damn, damn it.
I'm telling
Just,
you, I told you
God
guys that the
damn it.
last time. He's wearing purple
No.
and green.
Which is
Purple
not
and
just the
green,
Joker's
he has
colors,
no
but also
choice.
Lex Luthor's. So, God
Exactly.
damn it, Josh. Why can't you ruin this for me? I like him, man. Damn it. It's still
Yeah,
9
he's
out of
fun.
10. Great read.
Um, this reminds me of the new Star Trek series, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
One of the things that does really well is Star Trek had gotten in the modern era very serialized. Every story was trying to be, every season was trying to be like this full, complete arc, and so many Star Trek fans said, "No, this is too, like this isn't what we're looking for when we read individual comics. We want like shorter, self-contained stories." And Strange New World said, "Let's give you back the shorter one episode stories, but let's also have some plot thread that goes from point A to point C, or where like
Right.
every episode has some connection to the next. But generally speaking, they're individual one-off stories." And it was hugely successful. People adored it. I think it's one of the best Star Trek things that the new era has produced. I think it's pretty widely acclaimed. And if this reminds me a lot of that in a different way. This is very take the style of older comics, that like 1980s, 1990s stuff, and let's infuse that with modern storytelling, right? Modern writing and storytelling tropes, and find a way to bring like that classic energy back into the universe. And when I first started, I was very hesitant because, I'm not generally when DC's writers try to go Golden Age or like those kinds of stories, it doesn't quite feel incredible because I think the writing and time period don't fully work. But when you see
Right.
like really good writers tackle it, I think, and take that sort of Wolfman era, right? But bring in their own writing skills and modern sort of writing and language that's used, I think you create a really incredible story where, there's short moments where like Supergirl has a talk with Boy Thunder about, what it means to be a sidekick and like
Hmm.
the pressures that she faces and and you see like Boy Thunder like find himself, and it's a fairly short issue in terms of like actual substance for like the macro plot. But it's a really great single issue that like keeps the story, the general thread going, while giving you like a great one issue story. And I wish comics took lessons from this because I think there's something really great about the way this like story feels both like self-contained in many ways, but also has some valuable substance that's like great.
You
I just I
you
really like
know
this book.
else? I've other TV programs that I can think of that have been doing that are pretty popular. One hugely more than the other, but the Orville has been employing that tactic, and doing so really well. And then, of course, Stranger Things. Stranger Things did that for the last two seasons, I think, where they left it to where that could have just been it. The what are their names? The Duffler brothers or whatever. I saw that they did that intentionally because they had no idea that they were coming back. So, um, but it is a smart plan. It is a good idea to do that. It seems to work in the most popular things. So why not?
Yeah,
All right, what's up
it's
next?
a thing that works. Yeah. So we are going from one set of world's finest to a younger set of world's finest, plus more.
Ish.
We're looking at Dark Crisis Young Justice #5, and it's now my turn to talk about a book. So this is written by Megan Fitzmartin with art from Laura Braga, colors from Luis Guerrero, and letters from Josh Reed with a cover from Max Dunbar and Luis Guerrero. So, picking up where we left off last issue, Mickey Mixes Pitlick has revealed himself to our fated heroes and is standing along with the fake Wonder Girl. He's got the trio in another trap as they once again communicate to each other, trying to save each other out of it as he goes on about how they are his true heroes and he hates what's happened to their lives and how other heroes are taking their place instead of them, taking the mantles that they rightfully deserve as the next generation. They eventually start to break out of it thanks to some machinations of Speed with Impulse, and are then found by none other than Arrowette, Red Tornado, and Wonder Girl. And together, the six of them take the fight to Mickey Mixie's Pitalik. What a mouthful. Once again to fight him, but he proves to be a little too strong for the sextuplet. The team. I'll say the team. Um, and once again, Bart uses some Speed Force tactics along with the help of Red Tornado and Connor and bust out of the dimension bubble that Mickey has them trapped in. And they make it back to the real world, yet Mickey follows them back and says, rather ominously, "You can't get rid of me that easily." Well, that's where we finish off to lead into the final issue next time with #6 and see where this leaves our fabled heroes once more. That being said, I can't wait for this to end. I didn't hate the issue. It was a lot of it was basically just one big fight, but there was a lot of subtext. I get the subtext, and I'm probably wrong about this. Just how I took the subtext. It's talking a lot about the toxic fan base, complaining about all the new characters, um, and you see it all the time. There's a lot of news outlets and people online complaining about all the there's some are complaining about the diversity, but there are others that are just complaining about the fact that there's so many new people, yet we got two or three waves of new people already. Why are we talking about them? I just feel like the take feels a little off. Because if this is just a jab at the fans of the Young Justice era characters saying, "Where's my Tim, Connor, and Bart stories?" Uh, like Brandon and I have been saying, and I think Josh, you said there's a lot of people that just innocently want more stories with these characters. We don't want them to replace anyone. We just want these characters to be seen. Yeah, we want them around, but we still love John and Laura and Jason, everybody. Like, we still love all of them. But if it's a jab at the toxic fan base, I get that. It's just I don't know if that's what this story needed right now. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This one was hard to think about. Not in a bad way. I don't know what to think about it. Is what I mean. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10. It it was an interesting fight. I think it might have been the better issue so far because we
Yeah.
didn't just get the trio complaining about each other the whole time. I don't know.
this
I don't know.
this
This
is
it's messy.
easily the best issue out of the whole run, but I say that hands down. It really is. But like you, I haven't been impressed with the series. And that sucks considering the characters that are inside. Because, like you mentioned, I am a fan of those guys getting together every once in a while. I would like to see a Young Justice book or these guys on the Titans, something. The art was mostly good. The whole thing just kind of fell flat for me, though, and that's without all the inconsistencies that I can usually count Brandon on pointing out every single time we review this book.
Okay, I guess I'm
but
gonna push back a little bit.
go
I
for
think
it.
one of the struggles this book has is it tries to do something really interesting with meta narrative and sort of basically bring the conversation that people have into the story, and this idea of not necessarily like replacement, but this generation that's sort of been looked over. You know, the generation that's like the original Teen Titans is still gets some coverage, but then you've got like this era with Tim Drake and Connor where a lot of them did not and have not gotten a lot of love over the last 6-7 years. And with the exception
Unfortunately,
sort of Tim Drake, but even then, Tim Drake was missing from a lot of
yeah.
rebirth, right? And I think this book doesn't always succeed in the meta narrative it's trying to talk about. But I do think it's generally pretty decent. Like I think like this is the struggle, right? I think its meta narrative and what it's trying to go for is really cool. I think sometimes Brandon's pointing out there's some inaccuracies with the text and continuity flubs. But I think generally, like I genuinely like enjoyed the series. I really don't understand some of the hate. Like I do think this book makes some mistakes. I do think this book falls a little short of what it's trying to do. But I think it's trying to be ambitious. I think it's trying to write a 9 in terms of like depth and content and stuff substance,
Hmm.
and it lands at around the 7. You know, where it loses points for poor execution of some of its goals. But I think it's generally been
Yes.
pretty decent. You know, I do like seeing all three of the trio together. I do think the Mrs. Pitlick stuff has been kind of fun. The stuff with the Soundwave stuff and the reintroduction of who's the new character, not new character, but the person who was with Cassie on their journey to
Oh,
try to get
Sissy,
into. Yeah, like you know,
Arrowhead.
bringing her back is like interesting and valuable and exciting, and I think this book does find some success in all those areas. I think the biggest problem, as I said, is that it just is. It's like trying to be too much without
Yeah.
like the substance fully there and the execution fully there. But it's a 7 for me. I think it's this series has been pretty consistently good, and I just
Um,
disagree with some of your takes.
No, that's
Fair
fair.
enough.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
think
did
the
give this one
biggest
higher than anyone else that I gave. I gave it a 6.5.
You guys are so mean to this book. I don't get it.
No,
I think
honestly, there's just
it's for
something about the way Megan Fitzmartin writes that I'm just not a fan of.
yeah. I
That's
Like,
haven't.
this is
I
Fitzmartin,
don't
isn't it?
dislike everything. Yeah, it's Megan Fitzmartin. I don't dislike everything Megan Fitzmartin has written. I've enjoyed a lot of their stuff in the past.
Yeah, I don't
But
hate
just
everything,
the
but
Tim Drake stuff is kind of missing the mark for me so far. Between this and Tim Drake Robin has just not been the most terrific stuff. But I've enjoyed like the stuff that was in Urban Legends. I really enjoyed. I think it was in Urban Legends. Yeah, and that I
yeah, the
really
Urban
enjoyed that. And
Legends
then
stories.
this
Yeah.
follow up is just kind of fallen off for me. I think the biggest tell for me is where this will go forward. Um, like where these characters are going to end up next. If Megan has a next chapter in store for these characters, that they all six of them as a team, or if she'll leave it open for someone else to pick up. If Young Justice is going to exist once issue 6 comes and leaves, I think that's going to be the biggest tell for me. Because if we, like with Bendis, bring in Young Justice back, if we get this small portion and then it ends and then that's it's I'm just gonna hate it again. Because like I love Young Justice. I love I agree with you there. I love having the trio together and having all the characters back. I just want them to stick around a little longer, you know. I don't want it
Agreed.
to be just tied to Dark Crisis. I want to see these characters flourish and go on adventures together. And exactly what they've been conveying with the plot is they don't hang out anymore. So let's make that happen. I hope they can continue after this. And I actually did miss a note from before. I find Mickey makes his Pitlick kind of dull, but he's out there in a way that I think only he could make this plot work. So I think there is
I think
something
the point of
there.
him being included and Wonder Breast, I can't remember what her real name is, but they're forgotten villains from the same era. But
Yeah.
if we do get a Young Justice book, in the very first issue, I want there to be at least 3 jokes making fun of the fact that he used to go by Drake, and then I never want it mentioned again.
Yeah,
Well,
I will say this with the Megan Fitzmartin stories. I think generally she's doing something I think is really valuable. Being able to finally get sort of this side of Tim Drake told. You know, fans have been talking about it for a long time, saying,
Definitely
he's
not arguing
bi.
with that, man.
You know,
Yeah.
like there's a lot of fans who've been saying it for a long time. It's exciting to see it.
Years.
I think the Urban Legend story was pretty good. I think the Tim Drake Robin series is plagued by a rough choice in artist and sort of a rough
Yeah.
choice in terms of what like the writer chose to do with this like literary story with light on hard light and all of that stuff. I think it's been it was an interesting choice, right? And I think one of the
Yeah,
struggles
I
is
guess.
I feel like both instances are examples with Megan Fitzmartin being a good writer, making bad choices with what to tell, with what like arc to go with. You know, like anyone who's done writing
Yeah.
knows that sometimes you have like the right ideas, but if you choose like the right arc and storyline, your writing shines. And if you choose like the wrong arc and storyline, everything feels like it falls apart, right? And I think
Very
this is an
nice.
example where she's just picking the wrong story like ideas to write, and that if she when she like figures out which storyline she wants to tell and like she writes some good ones, I think I really enjoy her writing. And when she picks, let's send them into like a mirror dimension that's like run by Mrs. Pitlick, it's like, okay, this was a weird choice that works okay, but I feel like if you had chosen some other story, this could have worked a lot better. You know, I think
Yeah,
that's sort of
for
my
sure.
perception. It's just weird choices.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
I'm
like I
with
said,
you on that.
you guys are a little harsh on it.
like Tim Drake Robin feels like the plot was kind of pulled out of a Mad Libs. Like the setting and story beats were kind of just the blanks, and then you pull
It's
pull
the
a word out of a
Gotham
hat, and there
Marina,
it is. Like,
obviously.
but that's so weird.
Right?
I
Like,
know,
so
it's a
he's
weird
living
choice,
in
like I
blank.
said.
He's living in a marina, and he's going to solve a crime about classic literature, and he's going to have a friend from We Are Robin. Like, why? It
Why
just feels
not?
so random. Like all of it is
Weird
just so
choices.
random. I don't know. Yeah,
For sure.
you're right on there. So speaking
Meanwhile,
of
Ridley's making all the right choices. You know, is the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah,
Okay. Anyway,
exactly.
sorry.
all right, I was gonna do a transition, but I think we will take a quick commercial break because we're at about that halfway point, and we will be right back, folks.
Now, back to our program.
Welcome back, folks. Thanks for sticking with Not a Robots. So picking up where I left off, I actually had a good transition for this one. I hope it's good. So speaking of, like you mentioned, Josh, Robins with dumb monikers from the past. Our next book is Nightwing number 97.
Yeah.
And this
boy,
is
oh boy.
we'll get into that in a minute. So this is written by Tom Taylor with art from Bruno Redondo, pencils and inks on pages 8 through 16 from Gerald Borges, and inks in the rest of the book from Caio Felipe, with colors from Adriano Lucas throughout, and letters from Wes Abbott. So we are back in Bloodhaven. Now that Brandon's not here, we can finally just agree it's Bloodhaven. There's
Thank
your
you.
umlauts. Thank you.
What?
Wait, Nathan. Nathan, what do you say Bloodhaven, or are you one of
I've
the
always said Bloodhaven.
No, there's
Honestly,
an
everybody
umlaut.
did.
It's
I used to
Bloodhaven.
say Bloodhaven as well until I realized I was an umlaut. And it's Bloodhaven.
Okay, even if it's blue, I don't care. I've said it for too long as Bloodhaven. I'm not changing it. Until like someone goes in depth and gives me an explanation as to why it's Bloodhaven, and then I watch like a
'Cause there's a
TV
new
show or
blood.
something where they just call it Bloodhaven instead of Bloodhaven. Until
There
then,
might have
I'm
there's
not changing
probably like a
anything.
random issue of Nightwing somewhere that explains the umlauts, but like to my
There
knowledge,
is.
I don't know.
Oh, I wish I could remember what issue it is, but there is an issue where Nightwing points it out that it's supposed to be pronounced Bloodhaven. I'm gonna have to look that up so I can share that on the Discord. But
Yeah, that
it
I think
did
yeah
happen.
that happened in this run, I think. But did they explain why, or did they just
Oh,
say
why?
it's
Is
pronounced?
just because it's
Yeah,
the name. I mean, okay,
yeah.
so I'm if I'm not mistaken, Blood is German for blood,
Yeah,
so it's
but why did they go with
Bloodhaven.
why did an American town go with a German name? That's
I
that's
mean,
actually a good
there's
question.
loads of that. I mean, we have Danish names, German names,
Yeah,
Native
I was gonna
American
Yeah.
names
say,
for cities.
like a
Oh, fair
lot of
enough.
cities in this country are built around, are named around the group of people who ended up creating that area or first settling those
Oh, fair
areas,
enough.
right?
I was
Like,
actually
why do
gonna say
we
there's
have?
a lot of areas in my area are named after British areas.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
I
why
don't
is
really
New
know.
Yeah.
York named after York? You
Yeah.
know, like we're
Well, then
not
there
What's
you
so
go.
great
That's
about
so
Old York?
so yeah.
exactly
It's so
right.
old.
And like in California, a lot of cities are named after Spanish names: Los Angeles, San Francisco,
Yep.
San
Las
Andreas,
Vegas,
San
right?
Jose.
So
So there
so
you go.
like
It's
like this is just normal. That's
Bloodhaven.
like normal for America. That's not like a
Yeah.
weird part.
Okay. Fair enough. Then yeah,
Fair
Bloodhaven
enough.
because
Blood.
Germany. I don't know. Uh yeah, that always divides people between people who are like very very grammar oriented. Who are like, okay, no, there's new blood. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. And there's people like, I've been saying Bloodhaven forever. I don't give a shit. So,
Yep.
there's only two
There's
types
not
of
an in
people.
between.
Yeah. Okay, so we are back in Bloodhaven, uh, where Boss Maroney is in a bit of trouble after having done some work with Blockbuster. He is being interrogated by the police, which includes new Commissioner Maggie Sawyer. Meanwhile, Nightwing and his sister, whose name escapes me. Oh my God. Why? I know it's here somewhere. Doesn't
I can't.
matter. Uh,
I can't remember. Damn it.
oh my God. Why can't I remember? That's so bad.
Talia
Holy
keeps popping up in my head, and I know that's not right.
Oh,
Nathan,
my
do you know what her
God.
name is? No?
No, Nathan.
I guess that's a no, Nathan.
What's the question? Sorry, I was
Uh,
occupied.
sorry, Nightwing's sister. We can't remember her name.
I want to say it's like Maria, but don't quote me on that.
Or
Look
Marissa.
it up.
Marissa. Is it Marissa?
Okay, I'm just gonna.
I'll look it up.
Let's
Oh,
just call her Marissa. She's Marissa from now
Melinda
on.
Yeah.
Zucco.
Melinda. Yeah, I knew there was an M. Okay, good. Okay,
Weird
Melinda
name,
Zuko.
whatever.
That's it. Yeah. The point
So
is
odd. I thought it was
that
Judy.
didn't matter because her name doesn't even come up. So Melinda and Nightwing are standing over Blockbuster's dead deceased corpse with a giant hole in it, which actually leads to a very
Ooh.
interesting cut for the title card, where you see Nightwing's face from the inside of the hole. Uh, it's a choice. I like it. It's a choice, but I like it. Yeah. So we
It
cut
worked.
back to the interrogation where Maggie Sawyer plays her big trump card and drops a file in front of Boss Maroney, detailing all the goings on he had with Blockbuster. Blockbuster kept a very detailed, hefty file about all of their goings on and everybody that was involved. So, if this were to wink, wink, get out, a lot of people would wink, wink, be unhappy, and maybe wink, wink, try to okay, no wink, just try to kill him. So he decides
Wink, wink.
maybe he's going to cooperate, but can he be promised protection? And almost as if on cue, that's when Maggie calls in her partner on this, uh, Gotham City Police Commissioner Renee Montoya, making her second appearance this week. I know, wait, third appearance this week in.
She's a
conveniently
busy
Batman.
girl.
Oh yeah, in quite a good looking suit, I must admit. That's a good looking suit on Renee. I think I actually prefer this suit over the suits we saw in the other issues. um, yeah, so Renee has promised Boss Maroney that uh, she will escort him to Gotham and keep him alive there. To which he says, "How are you going to keep me alive in Gotham? It's Gotham." And she says, "We keep criminals alive." And he says, "How do you know that?" She says, "Because the Joker's still breathing," which is honestly a good point.
Fair
Um,
point.
yeah, very fair point. So we cut back to Melinda and Nightwing on a rooftop, talking about how Maroni is being escorted back to Gotham, and half they know that it means it's going to leak out to the criminal underworld, and he is going to have a hit out on him. So Nightwing goes straight to Babs, and they agree to go and help with the escort, uh, complete with a horrible joke from Babs. Yeah, as Dick says, Babs, there's a man stealing hearts out there, and Barbara goes, but there's a man who stole my heart right here, which is a moment straight out of my own heart. That's perfect. My goodness,
It is.
goddamn awful, but
I
so
did
good.
love that part. It's super
Yeah,
cheese. It
yeah,
was like,
and
yeah,
the
extra
expressions as
pizza,
well.
extra cheese on the pizza with extra
Yeah,
parmesan and some shredded cheese
yeah,
on top of that, and then easy
yeah.
cheese.
So it's mac and cheese with extra cheese in it. Yeah.
Yes, on a
Okay,
soggy
so
crust.
oh god, cheese stuffed. It's got to be cheese stuffed.
Yes.
Yeah. So we now cut to the transport is en route to Gotham City, and to the surprise of no one, it's being hijacked. Cop cars and motorcycles are being run off the road by a giant Mack truck, which actually broke through the barricade from the other side of the highway and runs the armored truck onto its side. The police, including Renee Montoya, get out and engage in a gunfight with the men from the truck. As it turns out, one of Montoya's officers is actually there to try and kill Baroni, but Nightwing arrives with Batgirl just in time to hit him in the head with an Eskrima stick and save Boss Maroni's life, and the pair take out the rogue cops that are trying to kill him, and then they promise Montoya that they can take care of Maroni, keep him safe and hidden for a few days while the heat dies down. And Montoya agrees to this, and we will meet on Monday following week to pick him up. So the trio on their two motorcycles head off into the woods, where Nightwing doubles back and takes care of the armed hitmen that are trailing them, since they're in a forest just north of Gotham City. He knows his way around very well and has lots of cover to hide in. After taking out the enforcers, he heads off to one of Bruce's many bunkers hidden in this forest that they know of. There may be many more, where they have Maroni tied up and try to settle in for the night. Nightwing gives him a tranquilizer that'll keep him out for a few hours, while Barbara and Dick finally get some alone time to each other and a romantic getaway in a bunker in the woods. How cute. They wake up the next morning having had a fun filled evening of all sorts of physical activity. Yet Boss Maroney said, "Look, your tranquilizer will last 3 hours, and this place has thin ceilings. I know what you were doing. Come on now." Which he never thought about the idea that superheroes would be in relationships. To which Barbara replies, "You must not spend much time on the internet."
Ain't
Yeah,
that the truth?
So
that's
good.
so true. So true. Yeah, there's full on flame wars about that stuff. It's amazing. Yeah, so then they try to contemplate their next move and settle in for another 2 days of just hiding out in the forest. When Barbara says, "Wait, there's a taxi outside. There's not even any roads around. How's this happening?" And as Dick gets closer to the taxi, man in the driver's seat sticks his head out the window, says, "Hey, Nightwing, my name is Rick Grayson. I need you to get in the cab." And that's when I officially was done.
Well, so was the comic.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of convenient, really. Yeah. So, I I'm not against this yet because I just want to know, huh? How? What?
What the
Keska fuck? Yeah. Uh,
Fuck.
Keska fuck. You know, I hate, like every other Nightwing fan in existence, hate Rick Grayson with a passion, but I want to know more. How is this happening right now? What psychic or multiversal or cloning machinations is Nightwing getting his own clone saga now? Like, what's happening? I need to know. But apart from that, it was great. Um, love the rest of the issue. It's the same Nightwing fun we've come to expect now, coupled with a lot of cute Dick Bebs moments that just together make a great issue. A lot of fun, great art throughout, as is the case from Bruno Redondo, with fantastic colors and inks uh, from everybody involved. Yeah, 8.75 out of 10. It's just another fantastic issue. Rick Grayson aside, I need to point out though, and I don't know if this has always been the case, but the scar on Rick's head, I don't know if this is just Redondo doing this or if this is always the case. It's kind of in the shape of the Nightwing logo.
I didn't
That kind of
recognize
interesting.
that or
I feel like
check
it's
that
always
out.
been in the shape of the Nightwing logo, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
you're like that's the case. Like you're right, and that it was, but a part of me is also thinking it was just like a straight line. I can't remember. It's a really weird shape for a bullet to take, though.
Well, I guess so. Here's my sort of thoughts on this issue. I think it's felt very fillery. Last issue was a huge bombastic, and this was sort of fallout of it. I didn't really feel like I cared much about the person they were protecting. Um, the cops sort of trying to kill him and all of that stuff was very um, fine, I guess. It was more just like set up for great art, which I mean, sometimes those really work in comics where it's just a premise that's designed to highlight the art. I think Nightwing in particular has a lot of that. But I think it's a problem I continually feel with the Nightwing series. I feel like there's not a ton of substance. Like, it's a good story, not a ton of substance to what happened. In terms of, like, what's it trying to say, right? Like, what themes is it going for? What ideas is it trying to have the readers come away with? So I've been kind of starting to feel especially a little lukewarm on the series. But I will say, I do think it's about time. Like, let me rephrase it. I don't mind them trying to deal with the Rick Grayson stuff and sort of do a retcon-y sort of thing. If we retcon that thing to be something else entirely that we can forget about and never talk about again, like, I'm perfectly fine with it. I'll never need it again. I'm a little frustrated that the Dick Babs relationship doesn't seem to be progressing much further. It just kind of had been at a standstill. I don't know. I guess I'd like
Yeah,
to
it
see a little
has.
more nuance and things happen. Like, let's see these characters progress forward. When you guys were saying you guys didn't know the name of Melinda Zecco, it was like it said to me everything I need to know about. Yeah, they haven't done a great job giving the cast the room to develop and say who they are. Like, I compared this series to I Am Batman, where it's like I know so much about Jace and his complex relationships and his values and all this stuff, and I feel like I don't get any of that from this Nightwing book. And it's a good series, good action, good fan service, but where's the substance? Where's the
Well,
character
see
development? That's
the
what's missing.
thing that the thing that I have noticed with this book and in general the way that Tom Taylor writes, he is a seed planter, and he drops seeds for the next arc in everything that he does, and he does that, and he's more of a slower paced, um,
Very slow.
more of a slower paced writer. Uh, so I don't mind it. I guess what it is it's up to your up to your particular taste, but I enjoyed it, man. That I just why Rick Grayson? Why is he coming back? Everything else was good for a wind up issue. Rick Grayson and 11 question marks is what I have written down for my notes on this. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I
Like,
was
I
saying
just
the
want to be
same thing
clear.
as you, Nathan, a few months ago.
Hmm.
That it's
Yeah.
I was saying I don't remember what issue it was, but just as much as I'm enjoying the series, there's a lot of this just feels like it's just stalling, and
Yeah.
like it's taking forever to get to the point of the story. That he'd been
Hmm.
doing the series for like 11 or 12 issues at the time, and almost no plot had progressed at that time,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing here. We finally got through the blockbuster arc, but then we still have to get to Heartless, and that's I think that's Heartless is just the season long villain. If you think of it like Buffy, for example, as an old show with that archetype, you have the season long villain, and then you have mini arcs with different episodes with other villains. Blockbuster is just one of those mini villains. He's the mid boss, where Heartless is the season
Yeah.
villain, but it's just taking so damn long. We don't need a season villain. We just need villain
Right.
after villain. That's
I
that's
do
the
I
feel
mean,
only
like
thing.
we
that's the
got.
thing,
I
right?
do feel like we got a development, a character development of Nightwing, like a further cementing of who he is and what he stands for, especially for people who are just now getting into comics to find out why he is such a big deal when he's not ever mentioned in the big names when people bring it up. Aquaman,
Yeah.
Flash, Batman, Superman. Um, so I do appreciate that about this, but yeah, I don't have any problems with it so far. I don't mind his pacing though.
Yeah, my only thing, and like I said, is I think when I look through the series, 19 issues in, I say what's happened, and there's a lot of like good like one-off stories, but like I don't feel like the arc has felt substantial. And I was enjoying it at the beginning, and then as it's kept going, I keep saying, you know, I just keep starting to feel like this arc, like the story, just is missing like some of the core themes. It's missing some of the great pacing. It's missing, I think, a lot of substance. And it's a lot of great filler issues, great writing. But I'm starting to be like, but what else is there? And this is more of a minor critique at the moment than a major one. But 6 issues later, if I'm still having this critique, it's going to start becoming a bigger and bigger issue. Anyway,
Fair
for me,
enough.
it's a 7. Good filler issue. Moving on.
All right. Um, Nathan does have a hard out here coming up pretty soon, and as it would stand, the next issue has no problem getting a little fast. The Flash 787, written by Jeremy Adams, pencils from Fernando Pasarin, inks Matt Ryan, colors Jeremy Cox, letters from Rob Lee, and Torrin Clark did the cover. The issue opens up with Wally racing the fastest he ever has as a father. Irie and Jay are pulling him in a million different directions, and man, can I relate to that. Rob, you are going to. These opening pages were like reading a page from my weekend mornings. While fighting over what they are going to watch, the channel flips to Wham! Wrestling Across the Multiverse, and yes, it's a wrestling TV show just like WWE. The match that is on is between Pow Tower, a domino masked dude dressed like in a military uniform, and Kriegmeister 10, a name that sounds like it came from Archer, and he's a Savage Dragon knockoff. This wrestling deal, the matches, they take place in locations across the multiverse. They just instantly transport there. This one just so happened to land smack dab in the middle of downtown. Flash responds quick as lightning and sees one of the fighters knocked down while the other one gloats. He checks the Kriegmeister 10 for a heartbeat and starts doing compressions, not even sure if the guy has a heart, while the pin count takes place, and that makes him the new Wham Wrestling champion across the multiverse, that is, by default, which of course Wally has no interest in. The other wrestler gets pissed and tackles Flash, knocking him into a car, and then another guy shows up and Omega Bam Man, a big ass purple dude in a Macho Man sunglasses, disco wing robe, porno mustache, and a bright red mullet from hell. Wrestling ensues. A tag team. I mean, I'm telling you, is that not exactly what that was?
Classic 80s wrestling.
A tag team match starts, and the Flash ends up making that pin as well. And while the whole multiverse watched, and then he got to go home without any incident or horrible setup. 100% filler issue, but it is such a fun issue, and it's so good to see Wally get a breather, man. Sarah and Ryan and Cox really pulled the art, and I highly recommend this as a one-off read. I had a really good time with this one, and I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Yep, I think filler's the right word. It's a good filler issue. I'm not the biggest fan of 80s art of the 80s art style, and so I thought this was kind of a mess art wise. I think in particular Wally doesn't look like Wally, but I'm not a big art critic. I just don't particularly love the 80s art style feel. But I thought it was a fun issue, very fillery. I don't really have anything more to say about it.
Fair enough. Rob, is your review, is your comments just fast as that?
Yeah. It's for me. This was the best. I think we need more of these issues. I've been no stranger to enjoying filler issues and filler episodes. To me, they've always been sometimes some of the best ones because they're not held down by an overarching story or a season plot. They're just a one-off. They can be as fun as they need to be, and that's what I love to read. As fun and as different as they want, and that sometimes you get issues like this that are just gems in the stone, and it's a lot of fun. It's pure fun and excitement. I think the art is amazing, especially with the expressions, and Family Man Wally is such a terrific speed for him, and throwing in some recognizable characters in there. You had the Faceless Man, I think his name is, and Maul from Wildstorm as a tag team. Excellent. Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah. 9.75 out of 10 for me. And honestly, Josh, I'm already starting to feel it. Haley's teething right now, and this week she's been keeping me up late every night.
Oh, so but the trials have just begun.
Yeah. Okay, so that was The Flash, and in true fashion was a very speedy review, and we are going to jump on over to Catwoman, where Nathan is going to tell us all about Selena Kyle now.
Yes, I am. So, of course, Dario has been captured, and with him kidnapped, Selena and Valmont go to the ancestral home of the Tomasos to try to convince the head of the family, Don Lorenzo, that they should force the Don's hand in Gotham and save Dario. While they decide to wait a day to chat, Black Mask steals Dario to get back at Catwoman. Back in the ancestral home, Selena is impatient, and the duo breaks into their home. Convincing the Don's wife to make a call, Selena and Valmont make a call and take a plane back, but the only plane available is flown by killer assassins. Makes so much sense, obviously. It turns out these killer assassins are connected to Valmont's past. A group of the League of Assassins who's like an offshoot, who's like even more culty than the normal League of Assassins. And they all wear that, like, what Valmont basically wears, but in black. And of course, everything goes wrong, and Valmont confesses his love for Selena before the duo take a parachute off the plane and kiss.
Honestly,
issue.
I mean, take a plane flown by terrorists or the Red Eye.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, what I'll say is it's a fine issue. Doesn't, like, I don't know. I feel like, basically, like, to be honest, like, I've been very loosely following Catwoman. I think I missed an issue or two along the way, and I don't really feel like anything's changed. I feel like we're in the same plot point we were in, like, a little, like, 2 issues ago, where Black Mask was still angry at Catwoman, and I just wish we sped up some of the plot a little bit. I don't really understand why we're starting to move so slowly, but it's a good issue. I like Catwoman. I think I think Tina Howard's done a pretty good job writing it, the series as a whole. But this issue was fine, I guess.
There was a little bit of a side story, like a 2-issue side story where her and Harley went on a road trip, and then there was
that was fun though. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
This was a little less so. This was more what are we really doing here? But like it was fine.
Valmont. We're doing Valmont.
Well,
How are you guys
she
feeling
is.
about Valmont?
I don't
Like
know.
him, dislike him. Where are you guys at?
I
think
like him.
he's so boring and just in the way and very one dimensional, and there's just something off about him.
Yeah.
Besides the stuff I just mentioned that I can't quite place, and I don't like him. And we already talked about shipping, and like, I'm all a bad cat stan. That's me. So anybody that gets in the way of that relationship is bad in my books.
Well, I mean, the
I
bigger
love
thing
it
is
when it
just-
happens,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to happen. And
Right.
I like seeing Catwoman having these conflicted feelings. I kind of like Valmont. He feels like a much more. He feels like a ghost maker that smokes a lot of weed.
Yeah.
Like he's a
Yes.
super assassin, but he's way chilled out, man.
Yeah,
But,
I think the biggest thing is I want to know what his feel is. Like, why should I care about him as a character? And I continue
Yeah.
not to get any of that. And for a little bit, some of the mystery was cool. I like some of the gender ambiguity. That was kind of cool. But by this point, it's like, if I don't know him, like, why should I keep caring? And I feel
Fair
like that's
enough.
where we're at. And I feel like they gave
That-
us a
that
little
might be
bit of
it.
that, but nowhere near enough. You know, like, what makes him interesting? You know,
That
and
might be what I'm
that's-
feeling off about him. Like
Yeah.
we haven't really gotten much. This might be in this issue the most backstory we've had from him, and it really doesn't give us much.
Fair enough.
So we're still
Exactly.
just in the dark about this character, and it's been like what 7 issues now since he's
She took
first
over with
shown
like
up.
39 or 40.
Was it 39? I thought yeah.
No, it might have been earlier. It might have been like 37. Like, she's been at it for over a year now.
Has it been that long? Holy crap!
I
I
think
think
so.
wasn't
Wow.
Ram's last issue 37?
Yeah,
I was
Nathan, you're
definitely-
you're
definitely in the
really
late
close.
30s.
This would be a
I
year.
You're
think-
really
I think-
close.
She might have taken over 39. It was in that area though. We're in the right ballpark though. So
Right.
It's,
And I
yeah,
just,
it's been a while.
For
It's
me-
been close to 10 issues, and we haven't had much character development for Valmont. And I'm both okay with that, and not okay with that, because I don't like Valmont, so I don't really care if he has character development. But at the same time, I want to care about Valmont, so you need to have some character development.
I'm looking at him like Catwoman's sidekick, and I guess I'm kind of okay with that. What a sweet ass cover, dude.
Yeah.
And
There's
man,
always
it was
been good covers, yeah.
so gorgeous. And unlike you two, I think the rest of the issue is too. I am digging this Catwoman book. I freaking love it. The art is great to look at, as it has been. This story, though it did have a bit of a small rough patch, is for me absolutely awesome. Every month I look forward to the next one. I gave this a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I love the rest of the issue. I just don't like Valmont, and I think if Valmont was not part of the story, I'd enjoy it a lot more, and it would get a 9 out of 10. But until then, with the art and the plot and the covers exceptionally, and if you're gonna have a sidekick with Catwoman at this point, it's got to be Dario. I gave it an 8.75 out of 10.
it's a 7 for me. I'm sorry. It's not, the story needs to move forward a little bit. And I'm not feeling
get it.
Valmont. And at some point, you have to make this relation me care about the relationship, right?
Yeah. See, I guess
Yeah, not
I'm
just
more okay
Catwoman's
with.
side.
I'm more okay with a slower pace book. It's like one. I've mentioned it several times on the podcast. One of my favorite books of the last 5 or so years is probably Blue and Green, and I mean, you got to be okay with the slow paced book to enjoy that. Speaking of something that's not slow, like going the
Yeah.
exact opposite, or even
Oh,
beyond
yeah.
that.
Oh no, wait, like time has paused. That kind of slow. Yeah, it is Flashpoint Beyond #6, our last book of the week. And this is co-written with Jeff Johns, Jeremy Adams, and Tim Sheridan, and co-arted by Zermanico, Mikhail Yanin, and Gary Frank, with co-colored, I'm just going to speak normally, it's colored by 3 people, Romulo Fajardo Jr., Jordi Belair, and Brad Anderson, with their respective pages, with letters from Rob Lee throughout, and a wonderful cover from Miss Gerads. And what a cover it is. So we are picking up where we left off yeah, I think exactly where we left off. Rip Hunter has appeared in the Bat Cave, where Corky is still with Bruce, and he is there to stop Bruce from making a grave mistake that threatens all of Hypertime and the multiverse in general, while trying to save his father. As he explains, the Flashpoint universe has been trapped inside the snow globe. We finally get answers about what exactly the hell is going on. Um, and Bruce just doesn't give a shit about any of that. He just wants to save his father and trap the universe in the snow globe so it survives. And Rip is saying, you can't do that because if you do, it threatens all of existence. And I've seen the two ways this happens, and neither of them are good. Then we jump into Inside the Flashpoint, where we saw Thomas and Martha left off with a time sphere, where Martha is saying, look, we can go back, we can save Bruce, just join me, as Thomas contemplates it, and then the two share a kiss, to which then Thomas realizes, no, that's not good. We can't do that. You're a criminal. You've murdered people. You've murdered my employees. You murdered Barry Allen. And Martha, before she can go too far onto her spiel about how nothing matters here, because, as they both know, it shouldn't exist. Mrs. Dent, I don't remember her first name, appears. The Flashpoint Two-Face appears with her son, the new Robin, with a gun pointed to his head because she's gone full psycho. They then
Mother of a year, Ord.
Yeah, yeah, really. We now cut back to the Batcave with more Rip Hunter and Bruce having a fight. Bruce throws a batarang, but Rip has far superior technology and disintegrates it, I assume through some kind of time manipulation. And then threatens to punish him in the past, present, and the future.
We then get like that.
We then get a glimpse into the rest of the Flashpoint world, where the Project Superman, or I guess you're just calling him Superman now, has gathered together a team of metahuman enforcers to help save the planet from a Kryptonian invasion, because apparently Jor-El and the Kryptonians are alive and want his son back, and they are threatening to destroy the planet and even destroy Kal-El if he gets in the way. Meanwhile, other characters are bringing the fight to Flashpoint, Wonder Woman. A whole bunch of stuff is happening all over the place. The world is falling to pieces. Martha is still trying to convince Thomas to enter the time bubble and save their son, but the new Robin then pleads to Mr. Wayne, if you do that, what's going to happen to me? Back in the real world, Corky throws his raccoon hat at Batman, saying, sick of Crockett. It turns out it's a real raccoon, which threw me for a freaking loop, as well as Batman. That was wild. To which Rip says, damn it, get that ridiculous raccoon back in your head, which, honestly, brand new sentence. That's the first time I said that. Yeah. And Rip pulls a hammer out of, I'm assuming, time, and is about to smash the snow globe, saying, look, this is for the best, Bruce. It's the only way. We then jump back into the Flashpoints. Thomas has some weird visions of Harvey Dent as Two-Face, possibly from his time on Earth Zero. And says, look, Dexter, you're not going to die. Martha, we have to save the boy. Stop this.
Stop it.
Yeah, but Martha's still trying to plead Thomas just to get in the bubble and save their son. But Thomas says, we can't right now. I have to save the boy. And he lunges for Mrs. Dent, whose name escapes me, to which she just says no, and then detonates an explosive, which blows up right next to Thomas Wayne, sending him flying across the room and shattering the time sphere in the process. And
her name is Two-Face.
Yeah, I was going to say it's just Two-Face now. Yeah, I'm trying to remember her first name. I just have a shit memory. Is what I have. So I couldn't remember Melinda's name either. I just have a shit memory. Yeah, so Two-Face is now just like, yeah, okay, fuck it. My son isn't supposed to exist, and neither are you. Shoots Thomas multiple times and is about to shoot Dexter, but then Martha, Joker, gets in the way, takes the gun, and shoots Two-Face in the face, giving her a third face or no face. We'll go with no face.
Let's say
Such a no face
1.5
that
face.
1.5 face works. Yeah, we can't even see how many faces because the onomatopoeia gets in the way. I think that's justified. So now with Two Face down for the count, and Batman, Robin, and Joker together again. Again, first time that's ever been said. They escape from, I believe they were in Arkham Asylum as it begins to collapse. They get out just in time as the entire building just shatters to pieces. And just then it starts to snow because they are in a snow globe. Because, themes.
Match.
And as it turns out, the danger to time has subsided because Thomas Wayne has decided that he's comfortable where he is. He does not need to fight it. Bruce is safe where he is, and he is happy with the world they live in. To which Rip says, like, this is unprecedented. This shouldn't have happened, but it's stabilized. Everything's fine. Let's go. So they head off. We see where Flashpoint World has ended up. Things are slowly getting back to normal. Dexter is being trained as a true Robin. Thomas has Martha locked up in a prison cell in the Batcave, but they live together happily. And they head off now to go fight a bunch of Kryptonians and help save the world. We then go to the Time Masters, to their time base, or the time bunker, where it's basically just destroyed because they were robbed by many people, including Batman. But then the 13 comes up, and these are 13 people plucked from time, who have now escaped, and they've been all pulled back into history, and history is now rebuilding around them. And these 13 people are very curious characters indeed. I will not go over them all now, but if you're reading the issue, you know who they are. Some interesting ones like Judy Garrick, which has been mentioned, Golden Age Aquaman, the Golden Age Red Lantern, John Henry Jr., Betsy Ross. There's some curious names going on, and I cannot wait to see where they go with this. But now they'll have, as one member says, what about the Justice Society? Will they deal with these characters that are being reintroduced into the 1940s? As Rip says, they'll have to handle Degaton. We have nostalgia to worry about. And then we cut to new character nostalgia with Bubs, a cat very similar to the one from Watchmen, as she's breaking into, I believe, what looks like maybe a nuclear device or a bank or something. It's some kind of scientific base. Where
She's up to no good.
She's up to no good, yeah. They'll just have to find the Watchman, whoever that is. And that's where we end off in true Jeff Johns fashion. A lot of hints towards the future. I'm very excited about the new old characters. I'm loving teases like that, speculating where they may pop up, if they do at all. As for the overall plot, though, it's very curious. So Flashpoint just exists now, and it's in Bruce's office on his desk. Can anybody get in or out? Like, why do this, especially at a point where there was such an interesting future for Dr. Batman in the grand scheme of things, especially with the JLI, but then they just decide to have Flashpoint exist for no reason other than just because it seems like. And I'm not sure what the point of that was, as much as I did enjoy the whole story. I'm just curious why we decided to just have, like, there were some interesting characters in Flashpoint. Why not let them play with the rest of the sandbox, Why keep them separated like that?
Yeah, I mean, the question, right, is why did we decide to do a 6-issue sequel to Flashpoint? And
well, because it's going to set up a whole bunch.
I guess. I mean, it sets up a bunch of stuff, but, like, I don't feel like this felt like the best choice of 6 issues. Decent event. I enjoyed a lot of the moments of it. It did feel a bit like I don't know, it felt very unnecessary. In spite of some really interesting stuff. I mean, the opening issue had all sorts of cool moments with, like, Bruce investigating, like, 5G and all this stuff that made it feel really important. But then the actual story as a whole isn't really as important. It's a decent story, but not super important. I did really like the whole story with Dexter And I do really like the stuff with Rip Hunter. I'm really excited for the Golden Age, which comes out next month. To see this revitalization of JSA. I wish Johns wasn't writing it, but beggars can't be choosers. So I'm excited to see where this goes. For me, this book is an 8, but I'm still very excited for what is to come next.
Yeah,
So wait, hold on. Did you say that Johns isn't? Did you say? What did you say, Rob?
No, I said I don't wish. I wish Johns wasn't spearheading the Golden Age.
Oh, gotcha.
But like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna
right?
complain but so much because I'm really excited for the books themselves.
Yeah.
So
no, normally I'd be there with you, but his Justice Society run from the 2000s was top notch. So I think he really knows how to handle the JSA.
It's more about Johns as a person and some of the controversy around him than like his writing skills.
Fair. Well, we'll see. But it's the same thing here as Young Justice for me, kind of, this series. Though it's had its decent moments, hasn't really been a whole lot for me. Like Nathan said, it's just an unimportant story. This particular issue alone was a good read. The whole thing is basically a long swing on this really short story. It definitely took the scenic route. But the ending here, it's a hell of a cliffhanger, double really, kind of. We have to follow from one title to another now to wait and see if he delivers on what essentially is really just going to be one story spanning, I think 3 titles, right? JSA and Stargirl?
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So, but I can't rate it on the future. I just I hope it pays off. This issue though gets a 7.75 out of 10 for me.
All right, so we have a few minutes left. We'll rush into our top 3. Nathan, you want to set us off there?
Yep. GCPD Blue Wall number 1. I Am Batman number 2. And then I didn't really think about what my third would be. I guess it would be, I want to say Flash, but I'm looking through the list. Batman Superman World's Finest. There we go. Okay, those are my 3.
You have a favorite moment? I forgot to mention.
I mean, I think to me the conversation that'll most stick out for me is the I Am Batman conversation I was talking about earlier, where they talk about like grayness in like ordinary in like superheroes, and I think that's really just powerful and compelling, and the sort of like hopelessness / like difficult decisions making that comes from that, and I just think it was a really great idea to bring up, and it's just the moment I think I'll think about the most heading out this week.
Right on. Good choice.
And Josh, what about you?
For me, number 3, I Am Batman. Love that story every damn month. The Flash was number 2. What a good filler issue, and I am not a filler issue fan. And quite unlike my compatriots here, I placed for my number 1 issue this week, Catwoman. However, my favorite moment didn't come out of any of those. It was the panel with the very painful wink that Babs gave to Dick when she was being so super cheesy, trying to convince Nightwing to take a vacation. That was like the way that was drawn. I could see the super cheese wink that somebody would be doing in real life that would look just like that. Yeah. Oh, that was my favorite moment for sure. How about you, Rob?
So number 3, I had Nightwing. A lot of fun. Number 2, I had World's Finest. Again, a lot of fun. And number 1, my stand-up book was The Flash. Just so much to love about that issue for me. And for favorite moments, I'm kind of tied between Jace's reaction to realizing Tam's now fighting crime with his fuck me. And the detective like, did you just ask me to? Like, no, I did not do that. Fuck, I'll explain later.
That shit was hilarious.
That's and Wally doing his intro, like, I am the sleepiest man alive. Yeah, I felt that this week, so that really stuck out for me. That was good. So
All
that
right.
was our favorite moments. Now it's time for your favorite moment. It is the biggest stinker.
Oh, that's nasty.
That it is Cleveland. All right, fellas, what made your
Indeedly
stink
do.
list this week?
I don't think it's any kind of secret that my biggest stinker this week, like it is every month that it shows up, unfortunately, if my memory serves me correctly, which it just might not. But Dark Crisis Young Justice just was not up to snuff for me, which is weird
Wow.
because Flashpoint Beyond was here, and I just have not liked
Wow.
that.
For me, it's Black Adam. Like I said, it's just a little messy.
Right on.
But I just completely disagree on the Young Justice, so it's funny.
For me, Batman the Knight. No, not really. No, I actually love that one. No, it's Young Justice. Yeah, I have not read One Bad Day Penguin yet. But I imagine that'd be quite good. I don't know. War
It's
of the
fairly
Undead
decent.
Gods is kind of iffy. What it's, I'm kind of on the fence about that spin-off series, but we'll see how it ends. Yeah.
We'll see how.
For now, though, I had Young Justice as well.
For now, you have Young Justice,
Yeah.
and until next time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah,
Well,
that
real quick,
that's our
just
huh?
yeah, real quick, just plugging my stuff.
Sure.
I'm Nathan. You can follow me on Twitter at Pace and Nathan. I should have some reading order stuff coming out soon. Theoretically, I'm supposed to be working on a post Dark Crisis reading order, but I have no idea what's going on with Solicit, so it's making everything really tricky. But I've got some cool stuff coming out, so make sure to follow me on Twitter. Thank you guys so much for having me on again. I really enjoy talking about comics. I don't get to talk on this format a lot, so it's exciting to always get to rant or share my thoughts. So thank you guys so much for giving me this platform.
Always happy to have
Hey,
you here.
man.
It's a lot of fun.
Yep, always welcome, Nathan. Always. And that's the Comic Herald that you are over there at, right?
Yes, although I've been taking a break for mental health purposes, so I haven't been doing as much. I am on the Not a Robot Substack sometimes, so make sure to look through there to see if what I'm talking about. I'm all over the place in terms of how consistent I am at posting on it, but when you're struggling with mental health, it happens.
Yeah, follow
like
his
I
Twitter
said-
and he'll let you know.
Yes, exactly, right? Just check my Twitter.
All right.
Yeah. So with that, that is our show. Remember, you can help support us by going to buymeacoffee.com/NAR podcast for just $1 a month. And as always, there's only one way we say goodbye around here. Until next time, be good to each other.
And don't. So
Mm.